Hi, Thomas the Hermit. I am a lay hermit, a man of prayer, and I also talk about other things that are important that I think are happening in the Catholic Church. Um, Today's topic is it's furthering my series on Malachi Martin, the Jesuits, the Society of Jesus, and the betrayal of the Roman Catholic Church. Okay? Now, today I'm looking at a chapter named Liberation Theology. Okay? Now, I didn't know a whole lot about liberation theology. And in this video, I have not drawn out an outline because I want to speak more candidly and more freely. Maybe even a little less intellectual, but I didn't know a whole lot about liberation theology. I heard about priests that were part of guerrilla fighters down in South America, and that's when I was growing up, and I really didn't know too much about it. Well, Malachi Martin does a very excellent job defining in this chapter what liberation theology is, and in his opinion, what is wrong with liberation theology. Now, at the beginning, I make a very stirring statement on my title, which I say, Antifa, Malachi Martin, Armed Violence, Torture, Deception, the Jesuits. Of course, that's the main title of the book, the Jesuits. Well, all of that sounds like a mouthful, but the fact is that when you use the word social justice, you have to look back to post-Vatican II, when the priests and nuns decided that that was their work or their job. Now, Malachi Martin covers part of that, and I kind of remember that as a young a child. I was probably 10, 11, 9, when all of this was going on, and I heard Vatican II, the spirit of Vatican II, all of that. Now, I am not a person who's against Vatican II, but after reading Malachi Martin's book, I'm beginning to have some questions, and that's why I'm talking more candidly. And I don't want you people who are against Vatican II to be getting angry that I'm not 100% on board with you. I'm beginning to see some things, and clearly there's some things that have caused us problems. But to me, when we're focusing only on Vatican II, we're not focusing on the present and doing something about it in the here and now. So I'm going to address what's going on in the here and now. Antifa, social justice warriors. What is that all about? Those are Catholic terms, by the way. Social justice is a Catholic term. Of course, the word prayer warrior is a universal Christian term. Social justice warriors. Well, let me read to you something right out of Malachi Martin's book. And this was written a long time before there was anything like Antifa running around. Cleverly used, the new theological lexicon not only justifies but mandates the use of any means, including armed violence, torture, violation of human rights, deceptions, and deep alliances with professedly atheistic and anti-religious forces such as the USSR and Castro's Cuba. Of course, this was written before the falling of the Berlin Wall. This goes back. But it describes a little bit of what Antifa is all about. Armed violence, torture, violation of human rights. Now, I did a video and I read about, from Malachi Martin's book, the humiliation of John Paul II by the Sandinista government. Now, why is that important? It is important because the Sandinista government was a brainchild of the Jesuits. Check this out. There were 5 priests involved in the Sandinista government. State Delegate Jesuit Father Alvaro Arguello, the OAS Ambassador Edgar Perales, I think he was a diocesan priest, Jesuit Father Fernando Cardinal and Father Ernesto O. Cardinal, Foreign Minister Maryknoll Father Miguel de Scoto. Now these men, these priests, were not involved at the low levels of the Sandinista government. They were part of the higher workings of the Sandinista government. They believed in liberation theology. The Sandinista government, according to Malachi Martin, was kind of like the laboratory where they got to try out their liberation theology techniques. They got to try them out there. You know, they basically, what I'm doing right now is I'm laying the groundwork. Then I'm going to talk more in depth in the following video what is liberation theology, but I want to catch your attention, okay? Liberation theology is united to Marxism. They borrow some of their ideas from Marxism. It's about the poor against the rich. You know, let me read to you this by also by Malachi Martin. This is a very, very striking statement. And upon reading this, you think, oh, it's not really that bad. It is really that bad. The more I tear into it and the more I look at it, the more I'm beginning to understand what is driving the craziness in our Catholic Church. And it's liberation theology. And if we're going to fight liberation theology, we need to know what it is. Now check out what Malachi Martin says here. The battle that liberation theology told its devotees to fight and to win was not the Ignatian battle of Christ's followers against the enemy, but the battle of a worldwide class of men and women against the toils and traps of capitalism. As a liberation theologian, your preferential option for the poor engaged you as a champion of this struggling class. As a liberation theologian, your nearest, your most organized, and your most widely spread allies were communists and Marxists. The human face of Marxism, as Teilhard Chardin had said, promised you the hope of victory. The association of liberation theology with Marxists introduced you at once into the one supreme political issue at stake in our world today, the unending rivalry between the United States and the USSR. Liberation theology was theology gone geopolitical. So what does this have to do with being redeemed by the blood and the cross of Jesus Christ? Now some of you out there, some of you liberals might try to twist it, but there's no connection between the orthodoxy of the past and liberation theology. Indeed, all theology that is in the church always had to be rooted to the orthodoxy of the past or it was refuted. But I'm just going to give you a taste. That's an idea for you to think about. How explosive is this idea? This idea is explosive. It gives all the intellectuals. There's a particular author of liberation theology, Gustavo, and he made a video that you can actually look that Boston College put out. You have to understand that they are still saying great things about liberation theology today. Liberation theology is the idea that is driving. It is the theological idea that is driving world globalism. It is the theological idea that is driving the church, the Catholic Church, in the direction that it is going right now. And if we don't understand it, we're going to be in a whole lot of trouble. Okay? Now, speaking candidly to you, I'm going to try to make it clear what liberation theology is in the next video. I'm really asking you to try to understand, to perceive, to come to grips with this particular ideas which have grabbed the world. And in fact, if you really don't understand the power that the Jesuits wielded, the Jesuits are the most powerful force in the Catholic Church. When they opted for liberation theology and they rejected orthodoxy, all the other religious orders followed them. The Franciscans, the Maryknoll Fathers, you know, the Benedictines, everyone went and followed them. You know, all this brilliant stuff. Look at this brilliant thing that the Jesuits have come up with. And it was pretty much a Jesuit creation. And it is something that they brought into the church. And this is why Malachi Martin wrote this extensive book. I'm still insisting that people need to read this. We need to pull this off of the dustbin or whatever that it is, and we need to reread this thing, because this book is telling about what is happening in our day. The Jesuits, the Society of Jesus, and the Betrayal of the Roman Catholic Church by Malachi Martin. And as far as Malachi Martin is a reputable source. He is a reputable source that they tried to tarnish. He never neglected his vows or anything like that. He asked permission from Pope John Paul II to be set free from the vow of obedience in the Jesuits and the vow of poverty, so he could pursue the course of writing these books and being free to say what needed to be said. Malachi Martin did a great service for us and a great service for the church. How anyone can think that this man with such high pedigrees could be so maligned? You know, he was head of the Pontifical Bible Institute at one time. He was the advisor to 3 popes, including John Paul II. He saw everything that was going on. He saw everything that was going on with Vatican II. He is a reputable source. To say that he is not a reputable source is scandalous, and it should never have been done like that. And we need to promote him